Hey artsy friends, welcome to my third composition notebook art journal series, doing a blacklight art journal. So I started this page on February 18th, and this was the view outside my window. So we had quite I don't know if you can technically call it a blizzard. I mean, we only got, I don't know, like 5 to 8 inches of snow, but it came really fast, and the temperatures were in the negative degrees Fahrenheit. So it was a cold one. And this is today. So it's still looks pretty. Anyway, let's get started. So this is a composition notebook that I prepared with collage, and I am starting today here. So the black marks are from leftover paint from a previous page, and the collage is, I think, from an old like technical manual or something. And this is my tea, and this is the mug that my daughter made. Like, she made that from scratch. Like, yeah, I'm so impressed. So I'm enjoying my tea with you. Okay, so I'm going to start by tearing out some pages from this old dictionary that I got at a Goodwill bin. So I was inspired by Sarah Carr on this Facebook group. This was her page that I really love the flowers. Now, she used a stamp, which I don't have a lot of really cool stamps, and I prefer to draw things myself. So I'm going to start by prepping some pages with my glow colors, and then I'm going to attempt to do some doodling and drawing on top of them. I've got a handful of sponges that, for some reason, some of these paints don't make the sponge turn like solid crusty hard, and I can reuse them. I don't know why, but I'm just gonna use makeup sponge to smush the paint around the different pages, and I can allow a little bit of blending, but my goal is just to cover the whole page so that I've got a lot of pages to work with when I start my doodles. Okay, this is a little bit longer of a video because I took a lot of time on this page. In fact, just for curiosity, I went back and added up all my record time, and it added up to 4.5 hours. So some of you might be like, oh, no way. I am never spending 4.5 hours on a page. And the reason I can take so long is partly because I don't feel like I have to finish it in one sitting. So I can get to a certain point and it's like, oh, I'm just worn out for the day, or I need to go make dinner or whatever. I can come back later. And also, my objective is never to, see how many pages I can make, but really every moment that I spend, whether it's on one page or 10 pages, is time that I just enjoy being artsy. So anyway, it's a long time. Okay, so I showed you where I found an example or reference of my little owl. And something I realized after I did this whole page is, well, you'll see at the end, but I put a big sunshine, and then I realized, owls are night creatures. So there's a little bit of a irony on this page, but so I started with my little owl. Isn't he cute? And then I found this also is another reference I used from Pinterest just to give little ideas. Now, I don't need to copy each leaf exactly from something, but if I start my little leaf shape and I'm like, what should I do this time? I can just kind of glance at all the examples, and even if I don't follow it exactly, I might think, oh, I can put a line straight up the middle, or I can put, let's see, this one I invented myself. So it's kind of a combination, but I don't have any problem with using examples to trigger ideas. And so I think that's a lot of what, YouTube art channels are all about. Like, hopefully you find inspiration from things that I do and borrow ideas from me and from all over the place. So I'd be curious to hear what you guys think about how you perceive time when you are art journaling or just being artsy. Does the idea of doing a long page and spending 4.5 hours on a page just drive you crazy? Now, again, I broke that up over at least 2 days. I know I didn't finish this all the same day. Yeah, there were chunks of time. Or do you like to do quicker pages so you feel more accomplished? Contemplating maybe I should try to challenge myself to do like a 15 or 20-minute journal, especially if I do start working here soon and don't have quite as much free time to to be artsy, then it might be a good challenge for me to just do something rather than nothing, rather than waiting for big chunks of time. Okay, so now I am just going to highlight little parts of my doodle with my white gel pen. And I have a love-hate relationship with white pens, but I have learned the trick, and that is to be very gentle with it. I think that I destroyed most of my white pens because I was applying too much pressure, and I think it just kind of ruined the tip. And so it didn't flow very well, and I was always getting skips, and it was really frustrating. So I've just tried to be a little more careful to be gentle with the white pens, and that seems to be working. This is a jelly roll, but the other one that's really popular, Signo Uniball pen, and I've had success with those in the past, and I watched a YouTube video, I can't remember which one, explaining that they just don't last very long. Like, you just buy them and you use them, and if they dry up, you just get new ones. So, if you have a really big budget, and you can just keep buying new supplies. But it did give me a little bit of peace of mind to know that that's just kind of how they are. It's not me. So I'm just filling in various details with white to bring contrast, because I love black and white on color, or vice versa, because they just make each other pop. So as I cut out my shapes, I am leaving just a little bit of the color edge. I don't want to cut out right on the line, because allowing that edge, for one, it makes it a little easier just to cut out, and then you're not missing detail, but I think it looks better that way. I'm really liking my leaves and my owls so far. Can't wait to see what I can do with them. All right, so I'm going to put them back on my page and see what am I going to do here. I'm starting with just moving them around the page to see if it kind of sparks any ideas. And I know that I want to do some flowers, so I'm going to keep going with my doodling on my bright colored pages. And I found this reference on Pinterest. That's where I find a lot of things. So again, when I have some kind of reference, if I get kind of stuck, then it just gives me that little crutch to keep going. And I actually did a little bit of variation of that top left corner. Like, I started with the little 8-point in the middle of the flower, but then the petals themselves, I kind of did a variation. And then I'm going to go back and add these little tiny dash marks on the inside of a flower. Always seem to give it a little bit of dimension. Okay, so I am happy with my little flowers. This is my favorite one. Which one's your favorite one? So I'm just gonna cut them all out, and then I'll just bring down my page again and start rearranging until I see something that I like. Sometimes I edit out this process, but I like to include at least a little bit of like how I come to decisions, because I know that's a lot of, watching a tutorial is how did you decide what to do? So for me, it's usually just moving things around until I like the way they look. I thought about just doing a circle with around the owl, but I decided I wanted to put him on a branch. So I'm going to carefully set aside all my beautiful little trimmings. But before I do the branch thing, I am going to add some interest to my background. So I'm getting out some masking tape. I got this little set off Amazon that has different size paint masking tape. And this was one of those ideas that just kind of poofed into my brain. Like, how can I make the background a little more interesting? I knew I didn't want it just black and white, but I also knew that I didn't want to smear the color all over the background because I wanted my little flowers and my leaves and my owl to pop off the page. So I got an idea to do some horizontal stripes and decided to use my masking tape to make that easy. I thought about drawing it with a ruler or something, which you could do as well, but this will make it really easy. Okay, now I just need to decide on a paint color. So I'm just grabbing some scraps of the bright colors because I want to see which color do I like with it. And I'm picking this, I think it's like island blue. So I want to make sure that the painter's tape is pressed really tightly against the page so I don't get any paint underneath, because that's kind of the whole point of using it. But when you're working with a composition notebook, you get a lot of wrinkles and bubbles, so it might be a little bit tricky. And then I started off thinking maybe I would do every other stripe a different color, but then I changed my mind. So I'm just going over the whole thing with this island blue because I thought, well, once I pull the paint up and I have my stripes, I think I'm just going to outline the stripes. And at this point, I'm thinking either gold or silver probably. So I am just putting it down, making sure that my brush is going across the page horizontally so that I reduce my chances of it, seeping underneath the tape. And I'm going through a second time, this time with a sponge. I don't even know why I have paintbrushes because 9 times out of 10, I end up just using a paint sponge. It's not really a paint sponge. It's a makeup sponge. It's a wedge, cosmetic wedge. Whatever, it just works good for paint. Okay, and then ooh, isn't that satisfying? I started to get just a little bit of a rip there, and I peel it off. I don't let it dry completely because then the dry paint will stick to the paint and then pull up too much, like maybe it did just there, but it's not like juicy wet, but it's just like tacky wet. So anyway, I'm kind of including these because, ooh, so I'm going pretty slowly. I'm speeding it up for the video so you don't have to have a 2-hour long video, but I thought I would include these peeling off parts because it's so satisfying. I'm just gonna outline each stripe with a silver. This marker wasn't working very well, so going back to my trusty Posca, and that is working much better. I was hesitant because I didn't want it to be too thick, because in between those really thin lines, I wanted to make sure that you could still see the background. But if you're careful and if you Yeah, don't push too hard, then you can still get a pretty thin line even out of those 3M sized Posca markers. Okay, now that I have my background laid down, I'm going to go back and make that branch that I spoke of earlier where my owl can perch upon and my leaves can grow from. So I'm just drawing a basic, I don't know, twiggy branch. Okay, so my diurnal owl is perched upon his or her branch, and I'm going to start gluing things down a little bit here. I'm going to put all my flowers on the bottom right corner. I use Mod Podge. I know some people hate Mod Podge. I have really never had a problem with it being with pages sticking together. It's weird because I'm not even in a dry climate. It's kind of humid here, but yet I don't know if I'm doing it differently than most people. I do put a very thin coat as far as like the top coat, and then I always make sure that I leave it open to, continue to dry for overnight or whatever. So maybe that's the trick. I don't know, but it works for me. Do whatever works for you. Okay, so I'm going to put the branch kind of at a downward angle. And then I just want to fill in the leaves so that it's nice and full and pretty. So I'm feeling like my branch is just not leafy enough. So I wanted to fill in a little bit more around the area. So I get to make more leaves. Yay! So I'm starting with just whatever scraps I still have and trying to fit some leaves on there. Okay, how you liking that peppy music? Did you get up and dance? Is it keeping you awake or is it just really annoying? Okay, so up at the right upper quadrant, I thought, do I want to just put a big quote? And I thought, I just want to do a big sunshine. So tore out a few more dictionary pages. Now I'm creating a sun with my bright colors. I want my sun to follow the same kind of whimsical look as my flowers and my owl. So I'm just going to draw some circles, concentric circles. I thought about doing all kinds of like little doodles in the sun, but I think because of the variation of color, I'm just going to do rings. I like rings. And the other page that I've filled with paint is going to be cut up for the sun rays. I feel like the sun is too big, so I'm going to cut off at least one ring and see if that helps. And then I'm going to add a few more lines just to give it a little bit more, I don't know. I feel like by adding a few more lines, it makes the sun look more sunny. Okay, maybe that music is a little bit much. I feel like I'm that squirrel from that movie Over the Hedge that discovered caffeine. Okay, so to stick with the same kind of pattern of outlining everything, I'm just going through one at a time. But I've realized since I've cut them out first, I thought it would be easier to draw in my lines after I cut them all out. But my goodness, it was a little bit challenging just to hold on to them and try to add lines. Okay, so I like to infuse some kind of thought, quote, idea, something in most of my pages or all of my pages. So I decided to incorporate a Bible verse into the background. So you can kind of read it if you really wanted to try, but it's from Philippians 2. Therefore, if you have any encouragement from being united with Christ, if any comfort from his love, if any common sharing in the Spirit, if any tenderness and compassion, then make my joy complete by being like-minded, having the same love, being in one spirit and of one mind. Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves, not looking to your own interest, but also the interest of others. I didn't get to it, but later in the chapter, it says, do everything without grumbling or complaining, so that you may become blameless and pure, children of God without fault in a warped and crooked generation. Then you will shine among them like stars in the sky, as you hold out the word of life. So the word shine was kind of what I was gravitating to as far as like just, when you love others, you are shining the love of God. Now I think the only thing left to tie the whole page together visually is just a little bit of a border along the bottom. And I wanted to make some grass for my flowers to grow from. Thanks for sticking with me to the end. Hold on to see the black light image. Just going to give you a couple close-ups here of my beautiful page. I love it. Do you like it? If you don't have to say anything. All right. I hope that you have a blessed day. I hope that you're inspired to go make some art. And yeah, I'll see you next time.